Welcome to Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged, a podcast for all women with a creative business who want to learn more about how to make money doing something they love. I'm Joanne Pearce, a female entrepreneur myself, 15 years experience running my own handmade stationery business, Vintage Twee. I'm an established seller on two of the biggest handmade marketplaces, so I've got a whole load of advice to share about how to start and run your own successful creative business. I'm also a wife and a mother, so I get the struggles of trying to do it all while you're raising a family. It's hard. Alongside running Vintage Twee, I'm also a mentor for other women like me who desperately want to work for themselves but just need that bit of support to get going and get their business dream off the ground. I'm a friendly northerner, I'm open and honest with a huge heart and a real fighting spirit, and I'm living proof that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, even in the face of adversity. This podcast celebrates the selflessness, strength, and resilience of women in business. So if you're ready to ditch the 9-to-5 and learn how to start your own successful creative business, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. This is my first one back after the summer holidays and it feels really good to be back actually. I missed it. I hope you've all had a decent summer and you've survived it if you've also got young kids. I'm feeling your pain. So this episode has been on my list of ones to record for quite a while now because I think you're really going to relate to it. We're talking ghosts today. And not just the ones that are rattling chains in white sheets, although I am going to share a couple of interesting and spooky stories. Who doesn't love a good ghost story? But no, I'm talking about the kind of ghosts that really get in our way and they're living completely rent-free in our heads. Business ghosts. Yep, they are totally a real thing. I've not just made that up, I promise. These invisible forces that are holding us back, especially when it comes to our business. And we're going to go into some detail about what characterises these unwanted business ghosts. The idea of your past experiences that are still influencing you now and wreaking havoc on your confidence and any progress that you're trying to make. We're going to talk about the reasons why we are letting ourselves be haunted. What is it that's causing us to allow these ghosts to keep pestering us and make us feel so scared and unsettled? And we're also going to be looking at confronting these business ghosts, seeing what we can do to make them disappear forever. It's going to be a good episode. Maybe just don't listen to it at night if you're like home alone or something in the house, because I've got some of my own supernatural encounters to share with you, which might shit you up a bit, okay? Not going to lie. So let's get started. And you know what? I was thinking we might as well kick off with a good old ghost story, hadn't we? Yeah, I've had a few strange encounters over the years, as have a few of my family members too. But I think the one that stands out the most to me, well, I've got two actually, but let's save one for later, was one from when I was around maybe 14 or 15 years old. And my sister will remember this one as well. So me and my sister Emma were staying over at our auntie and uncle's house, and we were babysitting our younger cousins at the time while our auntie and uncle went out. Now, we'd always had really happy memories in this house, visiting it as a child. Lots of Christmas parties there. I'd always felt pretty comfortable, it'd never been a problem. But it all changed when they had an extension built on the back of the house. And I remember my mum telling me that the builders had to dig the foundations deeper than normal for whatever reason. I think it might have been because it was on a hill. I don't know. I'm not a builder. But it might have had something to do with that. But after that, something shifted in that house. And my cousins, who must have been about 8 and 10, were suddenly afraid to go upstairs and be on their own. It was really weird. Anyway, this one night, me and my sister Emma were babysitting and we got the kids to bed. We watched a bit of telly, before going upstairs to bed ourselves. And we checked all the windows were shut. This is our probably first time babysitting. We were on the ball. Doors were locked. And then we peeped in on our cousins who were fast asleep in their beds, yeah. Obviously, much better at getting kids to sleep when I was 14 years old. I don't know what happened because I'm absolutely crap at it now, that's for sure. So once everything was good and all checked, Emma and I went to bed. in the spare room, which was just across the hallway from them. And I remember we left the hall light on for the kids, and we shut our bedroom door like tight. And they had these nice new doors, the ones that clicked shut and you had to put the handle down to open them. Not like the ones in our house, which like waft open because they don't fit on the catch right. You know the type I mean. It was shut proper, solid. And then we climbed into this double bed, in the pitch black, ready to go to sleep. Now, we'd not been in that bed a few minutes before that door that I had just mentioned was shut tight and secure. It flew open with such force that seemed beyond the strength of any adult, let alone our young cousins, who would never venture out into the hallway anyway on their own at night. And it slammed hard against the wall that it opened onto, and then it slammed shut again. It was so frightening. And me and Emma, I remember we just grabbed onto each other, like we were physically shaking, and we screwed our eyes shut so tight because we didn't want to see what was possibly in the room with us. And the weird thing was, right before this happened, I remember the room got really, really stuffy, but not just like hot, like heavy, and like I couldn't breathe. And then that happened. Now, a couple of people have said to me, well, it was obviously the wind. Well, there was no windows open. They've said, well, obviously your cousins got out of bed and they did it. Well, I'm telling you now, there was no chance because they were too afraid to even go upstairs to the toilet alone in the daytime, let alone wander the halls at night. Plus, if it had been a practical joke, what 8 and 10-year-old wouldn't follow it up in the morning to rejoice in their success of scaring the crap out of their older cousin? But no, they never mentioned it. Totally oblivious because they were fast asleep. Now, even if you could explain this door nearly coming off its hinges, you can't really explain what happened next. Now, I fell asleep, but my sister Emma didn't. And shortly after the whole door episode, she heard some really funny goings on downstairs. Now I'm talking cupboard doors being opened and closed in the kitchen, like banging around. And she stayed awake until my auntie and uncle came home and walked through the door, so she knew it wasn't them. We were so terrified, I can't even tell you. And my mum always thought that perhaps the builders had disturbed something, as I used to say, or maybe they disturbed something when they dug that bit deeper during the construction of the extension. But who knows? I actually asked my uncle about it on a recent visit to his new house, which is also the perfect place for some ghosts to hang out, considering it's like a 15th century cottage. Honestly, right, his bedroom has this weird hatch in it, which he said was most likely used to get dead bodies out of the house when people died. It didn't feel spooky at all in there, despite it being so old. And we stayed 2 nights, no encounters whatsoever. Anyway, he denies all knowledge of the ghostly encounters at his old place. But we know what happened that night. I'm really sorry, Uncle Kevin. It happened. But it's that feeling, isn't it? We don't always see something, but we know it's there. And it can really stop us doing what we want to do. In mine and my sister's case, it was not being able to earn any pocket money from babysitting from my cousins anymore, since we'd never stepped foot in there a night alone again. These past experiences of things that have happened to us leave us feeling unsettled, and annoyingly, they're shaping our current fears. So if you're sat there right now, not doing something that you want to do, feeling scared or putting it off, procrastinating like we always do, talking yourself out of every bloody good idea that comes into your head, the chances are you've got a business ghost haunting you. Now, I love this metaphor because it just sums it up perfectly. What exactly is a business ghost? Well, to put it simply, there are moments from the past that are still influencing you now. Things that are haunting you and stopping you from moving forward. Now, this could be absolutely anything, right? It could be a failed launch. We've all done one of them, haven't we? Where we spent, every hour under the sun designing a new range that we're completely in love with and we're convinced that the whole world is going to be too, only to put it out there and nobody buys it. Yeah, it's so disheartening, isn't it? And it makes you think that you can't do it again. Sometimes you don't do it again, which is a real shame because that business ghost has now taken up permanent residence in your head And it ain't ever going to leave you alone, I'm telling you. Maybe you've had a negative review from one of your products or your services, and it really shook your confidence to the point where you just can't take the chance again, despite the fact that you've had like 99 amazing reviews out of 100. Yeah, but that one bad review has become your business ghost and has set up home in your brain. And it's rattling them chains every time you think about opening up an Etsy shop or going along to a fair and putting your stuff out there. Or maybe your business ghost never had an actual physical presence before it became a ghost of yours. Like maybe it's something that's never actually happened to you, but you're scared of it happening. And sometimes that can be worse, can't it? So it's haunting you regardless. It could be something like being scared of being judged or dismissed, especially early on in your business journey when you're very fragile and vulnerable and you haven't got that confidence. Because that's a real problem for people. It's a ghost that loves to float around your brain, even though you don't know who it is, but they're just kind of latched onto you. A bit like the one at Uncle Kevin's house. Yeah, we didn't know whatever that was, but it decided to terrorise us anyway. These ones are the real assholes, aren't they? Yeah, we don't need these in our lives. We've got enough insecurities from what we've already been through without needing these as well. So you might have some business ghosts in your head right now. Yeah, you might be able to think of a particular past experience that has stuck with you and is making you feel unsettled or nervous about doing it again or doing it at all. If you have got something in your head, write it down. Okay, you can do this now. If you've got a pen and paper to hand, or you can type it into your phone. I always use a pen and paper because I'm old fashioned. And if I write it into my phone, I'll never see it again. Yeah. I don't do notepad apps. I'm like an old fashioned girl. Everything is written down on paper in this house. I do our online shop before I enter it online into the Ocado app. I write my list out first. My husband Dave is always like, why are you doing that? Like, just create a shopping list on the app. It is so much easier. You're making hard work for yourself. And I'm like, yeah, maybe for you, Dave. For me, I need to physically put something on paper to process it and understand it. Now, whether that's figuring out what's holding me back in my business or whether or not I need to order 1 or 3 cucumbers that week on the food shop, yeah, I have to write down. So write your business ghost down now. Give it a name if you want, because we're going to come back to that later. But for now, let's think about the ways in which they are haunting you. How do they show up in your day-to-day life? Do they only come out at night when you're lying in bed with your mind racing and you can't sleep? Or are they more brazen than that? And they're out loud and proud in broad daylight, like following you around and making sure that it's impossible to ignore them. It could be both, in which case you are mega haunted. You'll know if they're rattling their chains because they'll do things like whispering doubts in your ear whenever you try something new. Oh, are you sure that's a good idea? What if it doesn't work? Is it really worth the risk? Never mind what if it does work, they never say that, do they? Or they can make you play small so that you avoid being hurt or failing again. So that might look like launching a new product or service, but instead of adding it to your Etsy shop or telling everyone that you know about it, maybe emailing the local press to ask them to run a feature on the story of you and your business to get you some publicity. You don't do much at all. You maybe put one little half-arsed post out on your Facebook page, and then once you've pressed post, you go and hide away under your desk and hope that no one actually orders one, because that would mean you were wrong. And actually, your stuff is pretty good. Yeah, I know, I've done it. But that ghost, that past negative experience, is holding you back and it's keeping you in chains. And it's not that they are always intentionally doing this to you, you know. It's just that it's keeping you safe in a weird, kind of non-helpful way, which is ultimately keeping you stuck in this limiting pattern of behaviour. It's like saying, well, this is what I could actually be capable of if I was brave enough. Like maybe have your stationery stocked in some big retail stores, or get your music featured to make a soundtrack. I'm constantly telling my husband, who is always making music in his corner at night, who absolutely loves it. I'm saying to him, just stop playing the tracks that you spent hours creating to me and get them bloody out there, will you? Make us some money. But speaking of my husband, right, we've got another quick ghost story for you here, okay? I think he's got loads. He's like some kind of ghost whisperer, I'm telling you. And he often tells me stories from this house that he used to live in when he was very young. He said one night, he must have been probably around 5 years old, and he was in bed. He says he remembers it really clearly. And then he saw this man in the hallway. He said, and this man was dressed all in black. He had a black cowboy hat on, which is a bit weird. Anyway, this man wandered into Dave's room and he said he asked him for directions, like a 5-year-old. Now, Dave said he can't remember where the hell this guy wanted directions to. Probably for the best. Maybe it was like the bloody Wild West or something, dressed like that. But Dave said that he replied to him. And he said, my mum said that I'm not allowed to talk to strangers. At which point, this man, right, he cocked his hat and he disappeared. Now, initially I thought maybe it was a family friend visiting, but then that would be weird, like wandering into the 5-year-old's bedroom and asking him for directions in the middle of the night, yeah? Dave asked his mum the next day and she said that no one visited the house that night, let alone a bloody cowboy. Apparently, he asked her if they got robbed during the night. Typical Dave. Even as a 5-year-old, he was thinking about the security systems in his house. And obviously, she said, no, of course not. Unless, of course, this guy was looking for a bloody sheriff's badge and a gun. Jesus. And that wasn't the only supernatural stuff that happened in that house. Dave often starts his stories with, when I lived at Crantock Drive, this really weird thing happened. Like, he's heard footsteps on the stairs when he's been home alone there. His cat, like, started randomly screaming. And the one that I find the most horrifying and freaky was the sound of children playing in the playground, except it was 5 a.m. in the hallway. And he's an only child. So weird. Anyway, back to our business ghosts. So why are we letting ourselves be haunted like this? What kind of power are they holding over us? Well, a lot, it seems, doesn't it? We have to remember that our brains sometimes get confused. I mean, mine's confused all the bloody time these days. Now I'm in full-on menopause. Can't remember anything. I find myself not being able to find the right words for common household objects. You know, the funniest was when I was trying to describe the microwave the other day, and I couldn't for the life of me think what it was called, and I had to settle for the food zapper thingy. Honestly, no joke. But our brain can often confuse what has happened and what will happen, which, as we know, isn't always the case. And more often than not, it isn't the case at all. It's like when you're dreading something, isn't it? Such as a dentist appointment, because the last time you went, it was horrendous and painful. But, you know, you got to go back like you do to the dentist. But actually, you do go, and it's not as bad this time as you anticipated. In fact, it's actually, and it usually is okay, much better than you expected. But our brain remembers what happened last time and automatically defaults to that thought pattern. In fact, it loves a pattern, even negative ones. And it's trying to protect us by basically saying, oh, let's not do that again. Obviously, it's easier to make the easier choice. It's less cognitive energy. So we do what we've always done. Same if you're a secret eater, yeah? Every time you open the fridge, you sneak a bit of cheese off the block, don't you? And you close it again before anyone else sees you. And by the end of the day, you've pretty much eaten like all the cheese. The problem is, the fear of repeating pain often outweighs the hope for that new outcome, doesn't it? Say you've stopped eating the cheese before, you've lost the weight that you wanted to lose, you felt so much better and healthier, but then you really missed the cheese. Like, who wouldn't? So one day you just thought, right, sod it, I'd rather be fat and happy. And you went back to your secret eating habits, and then you put on twice as much weight. You really don't want to try again then, because you failed last time. And it's the same with business ghosts. You get burnt once and it haunts you forever. Maybe that bad review that you got stings still and you can't shake it off. Maybe someone questioned your prices at a fair and it's not your confidence to do another one. Whatever it is, the thought of dealing with however it made you feel at the time, embarrassed, upset, disappointed, worthless, incapable, well, that's just too much to handle, isn't it? And it's not worth the chance of a better outcome next time, right? Wrong. That is bullshit. People go through painful things all the time, but they jump right back in and they do it all over again in the hope that it'll be better next time. Childbirth. There's one for you. People go back for more because they forget the pain and the trauma and they focus on the outcome. Apart from me. I ain't going back for any more. I can't now anyway. My ovaries are out. But even then, I was in the one and done club. You know, when I had Eden, you know what the first thought was that came into my head the minute she came out? Not, oh my God, look at my beautiful baby girl. Nope. I remember quite vividly, I turned to the side, sobbing into this poor trainee midwife's uniform I'd been grabbing onto for dear life for like nearly 12 hours. And I said, I am never doing that again. I really did. Relationships, that's another one. They cause severe heartbreak and pain sometimes, but people get over it and they go back in for more in the hope that they're going to get a better outcome the next time round. And they often do. So we can't let these negative past experiences stop us having another go. Okay, so now we know what the business ghosts are and we know how they are haunting you. What the hell do we do about them? Because if we do nothing, they're never going to go away. So there's only one thing we can do. And it's what they say you should always do if you ever encounter a ghost in the dead of the night. Confront it, or at least call the exorcist in if you can't do it yourself. We're actually going to go on our own ghost hunt shortly, and I'm going to tell you how to get rid of these pesky business ghosts. But before I do, I have another story to tell you about something that happened when my granddad died. Now, I was about 10 years old, and my grandma had been with my granddad for 60 years, so, it hit her hard when he died. I used to go and stay over with her every Friday night just to keep her company because I remember really feeling her sadness. It was so deep and I didn't want her to feel that alone. I felt like no one should ever feel that alone. So I used to sleep over one night each week just to try and help. And that was until she told me the following story. Then I decided she was on her own. So my granddad Sam, yeah, we used to call him Granddad Horworth. He used to sit in the same chair every day. Like we all do, I guess. We'll have our own armchairs, don't we? But he was rarely out of it, okay, when he wasn't out shopping on the road or at the snooker hall or at the pub. Yeah, sat there with his cigarette, to the point where the chair's material on the armrests where his elbows were, it was all gone. I remember it so vividly, these patches of material that were missing. Anyway, not long after he died, my grandma said that she had been upstairs and was coming back down to turn everything off before heading back up to bed for the night. And she made her way back downstairs and she said she felt a weird feeling in the air. A bit similar to the one that I described that I felt at Uncle Kevin's house. Like an almost heavy feeling, if that makes sense. Anyway, she said she made her way back downstairs, feeling a little bit nervous. And she opened the door to the lounge. Now, I remember these doors, they were thick, heavy wood, and they had a marble bar for the handle and coats and coats of glossy green paint. As she entered the lounge, she said that she saw my granddad Sam sat in his armchair, resting his elbows on the armrests as normal. Now, my grandma wasn't easily scared. Yeah, she was tough as old boots, as that generation were. But she said she was absolutely terrified. Quite rightly so. You just seen your dead husband sat back in his armchair. She said that she automatically reacted the way that she would have normally reacted to my granddad if he was irritating her and just showing up unannounced. And she shouted at him, wait for it, "Bugger off, Sam." I know, right? I'm definitely a granddaughter. And you know what? He did. She said she saw him disappear. And then she raced up the stairs until the morning. And from that moment, she never felt uneasy again. Now, whether you believe this or not, I still think it's a really good example of how confronting our ghosts, the things that are making us feel uneasy, is the only way to get rid of them. You need them to evaporate into thin air, to stop haunting you, to stop making you feel so scared, to bugger off, as my grandma quite rightly said. So let's do our own ghost hunt right now, because there are 3 things that you need to do to get rid of these pesky business ghosts. Right? I'm going to do it too, because I've got some of my own. Don't be sat there thinking that I haven't. Yeah, I have. I reckon I might have more than you, actually. So the first thing that you need to do to exorcise this ghost is name it. Yeah, name that ghost. What exactly is it that's haunting you? Is it that you don't feel good enough to start or run your business? That's a confidence ghost. Maybe it's that you don't feel like you know enough. A skills ghost. Maybe it's that you really do want this, but you're always getting in your own way. Yeah, self-sabotaging, overthinking, getting distracted and just getting easily led off course, so you end up doing nothing. And then it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? That's telling you, see, you can't do it. You are totally not capable. You have too many ideas. You can't focus on anything. You're never going to be able to run a business. You are shit. Well, that one is the real devil right there, isn't it? Think about what your business ghost is and write it down. Now, mine, you might be surprised at this one, is that I'm feeling pretty insecure at the moment and comparing myself to a lot of other people doing the same or similar things to me. Oh, they have better offers, they do better reels, they have more clients, they don't have to try as hard. Bullshit, I know, right? Because that's not them, that's me. I'm responsible for how I'm feeling, not them. So I'm writing that down as my business ghost, yeah? Write yours down now too and bring it into the light. So that's step one. Step two, we've got to debunk the ghost, yeah? We need to prove whether or not this is real, like a valid fear, or is it just our imagination? Is it always true? Or has something just happened once that has made you feel scared and now it won't go away? If you are dealing with the big boys here and you've got to take on the devil, that voice that's telling you that you're not good enough or capable enough or knowledgeable enough to run a business, the whole works, then is this even true? Who has said that to you? What evidence do you actually have? Yeah. Because chances are you won't have much evidence of this. Beyond maybe a few ideas that were non-starters and maybe a zillion notepads filled with all your previous business ideas that are now covered in cobwebs because they never happened. So what? We've all got them. Jesus, you should see my shelf of dusty notepads. Right? That is not reason enough to let this devil, this ghost, haunt you forever and stand in your way. So be fair to yourself, be realistic, and set out on the mission to prove the opposite of what your ghost is telling you. The fact that you've got ideas in the first place is a huge indicator of entrepreneurial spirit, pardon the pun, and that you're even considering starting or running a business and have committed ideas to paper. Most people don't even get that far. What other evidence can you find to debunk the ghost? So for me, and my case of imposter syndrome at the moment, am I actually right in assuming that all these other business mentor extraordinaires are better and more successful than me? I've got 15 years experience of running a handmade business. The blood, the sweat, the tears. I know how it feels when something doesn't work. And I know how to change it up to make it work. I know what it's like to not know how and if your next bill is going to get paid. If you're eating Tesco's finest range this week or it's Aldi's Essentials. I know what it feels like to muddle your way through the day, totally winging it and hoping for the best. I know how it feels when a customer doesn't receive their order in time for their special event, and takes it out on you. Or when something you've made doesn't live up to their expectations. I know what it feels like when you're working 14-hour days, 7 days a week for £0. Who does that? Apart from us crazy entrepreneurs. But I also know how it feels when the going is good. When people are chucking money at you to make something special for their kid's birthday or wedding. When you have made a week's wage in 14 hours because you just landed a big order. When someone tells you how talented you are and that you've created the most special memories for them through your work. When you feel so together and capable and nothing gets in your way. This is what makes me different to everyone else out there doing the same thing. Yeah, I'm real. I've been in the trenches and I get in them again with you. Yeah, I don't offer quick fixes. One-day masterclasses priced at 800 quid, full of false promises and ridiculous AI generated tips and tricks, to earn 7 figures from your handmade business. It's crap. You'll be bloody lucky if you ever earn anything above 4 figures from your handmade business. No, I'm only joking, right? But what I'm saying is, my ghost, Mr. Imposter Syndrome, isn't actually real. I have loads of evidence I can use to exercise it. And I'm not talking about taking it out for a run. And that's what you need to do too. Prove the opposite. Step 3, the third and final one to get rid of your business ghost for good. And that is, we have got to change the script. I call it my banishing ritual. Take one small safe action that challenges that fear. So you might decide to dust off those old notebooks, where you wrote all of your non-starter ideas, and then read through them again. See if any of them are actually any good and have legs. You might even decide to try one out. You might want to play around with some materials, no pressure. Make a sample, take a photo, show it someone who you trust and who will support and encourage you. And I'm going to stress someone who will support and encourage you, because all too often our go-to person to show things to that we create or discuss our business ideas with are our partners, aren't they? Or our parents. I mean, bloody hell, that's even worse. Parents. My mum used to question all my ideas, but I just did them anyway. Find someone who will be helpful and build your confidence. Ask me. I've got an email. Message me. Yeah, sometimes our parents and partners, they've got the best of intentions, but they aren't actually the people that we need to be getting our business advice from. Just something to bear in mind. So do something small, something that will weaken that ghost bit by bit until eventually it crosses over and it never bothers you again. And that's it. Ghosts be gone. Remember, ghosts lose their power when you stop running from them. So the best thing that you can do if you're feeling haunted by something is confront it. Do what my grandma Horwath did and tell it to bugger off. And remember that what happened to you in the past doesn't own your future. And this goes for all things in life, doesn't it? It's not just work-related stuff. And remember, if you need someone to help you exercise any business ghost you have and prove them wrong by getting your business either up and running or where you want it to be, please do drop me an email. I'm here, I'm waiting. My contact details are on my website, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I will reply. I want to help you. So before I finish this with a funny ghostly story of my own, I want to mention my new offer to help you get your Etsy shop Christmas ready. So I am doing a full Etsy makeover so that you can get your products found. You will get a fully optimized Etsy shop with up to 5 product listings. I will make all your titles, your descriptions, your tags, all SEO friendly so that you get found and your products get found for Christmas. And I do it while you sleep. It's done in a day. So if the thought of getting your Etsy shop stocked up or optimized ready for Christmas absolutely terrifies you, business ghost, see the link here, then drop me an email. I will help you. The time is now, because Etsy is a search engine and it needs time to register your products, which is why I am stressing it's really important to do it now if you are wanting to see some Christmas sales. So the price of my Etsy takeover service is £125. That is going up to £150 in October. So it is just on offer during September while I've launched it. So if you want to book now, please send me an email or visit my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, and you'll find the Etsy takeover package under the Get Support section of the website. Now, I promised a little scary story to finish, yeah, and you'll like this one. So, the other night, I was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, brushing my teeth. My husband Dave was doing his usual annoying thing of squeezing into our tiny bathroom, having a wee. Why do they do that? While I'm trying to brush my teeth. I don't think I've used the bathroom alone since 2010. Anyway, it was like nearly midnight. And strangely, Eden hadn't woken up so far, which is pretty much unheard of, right, in our house, I'm telling you. So, as I finished brushing my teeth, I whispered to Dave really quietly, so I didn't wake her up, I'm just going to go and check on Eden. Just to make sure the little bugger was still breathing, which is always my first thought when I've not heard from her in over 2 hours. So, I crept past Dave, having his annoying wee, slowly opened the bathroom door, and screamed so loud, I think Dave wished he'd have just waited to have had his wee because he had some cleaning up to do afterwards. There, stood in front of me, looking dishevelled and pale, with a huge, creepy grin on her face, was Eden, just staring back at me. And what I actually started to scream was, shit. And then I quickly changed it to Jesus when I realised it was her. So it came out as like, Jesus, which she found hilarious, by the way, little sod. I honestly thought I'd come face to face with a little girl ghost who roams the hallway at midnight, looking for unsuspecting parents to put in an early grave. Anyway, once I calmed down, we had a laugh about it, but my God, I must have aged about 10 years in that moment. So, on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. Don't forget, you know where I am if you need help with your creative business. And please do share this episode with anybody who you think will enjoy it or you think it will help. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode, and it's all about starting a podcast. So if you have been thinking that it's something that you want to do or that you would enjoy, I'm going to tell you how I got started, and it's not as hard as people think, okay? So I'll leave you until then. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.